Now, we had a couple of requests for people to speak. So I see the two individuals that had asked to speak. So first I'll ask Mr. Lehman to come up. Yes. Welcome.
My name is Lawrence Lehman. I live at 10 Chester Drive in Rye. I've lived in the same house for 42 years and in and around Rye for 50 years, despite my obvious youth. I'm afraid I'm going to detract from some of the levity here tonight. My comments are basically directed at the mayor. You appointed me to the Flood Advisory Commission as vice chairman and a member sometime in January. I'm a registered professional engineer in the state of New York, and I've been a consulting engineer for most of my life. I know a great deal about flooding and more about flooding in Rye. I found it necessary on the 9th of September, I have the letter in front of me, to submit my resignation. I submitted it to Scott Pickup because I thought that was the proper thing to do. I also submitted a copy of a letter to you in a separate envelope. I've lived through about 7 mayors. They've lived through me. However, it has always been my understanding that when a letter is submitted to the mayor at the City Hall address, it is, as soon as practical, transmitted to the members of the council. The logical reasons for that are obvious. It eliminates the need for any citizen having to write 7 letters. I was told by the city manager that that letter was sent on to you. It was not news to anybody, I think, because exactly a week before that, I met with the city manager for at least an hour, outlined the problems I saw with the commission as it was constituted, and told him that unless there was a change in leadership in that commission, I would not be able to continue as a member. He said he would communicate that to you and that you would get back to me on it, which I fully expected to happen. It didn't happen. The good news is I won a quarter, because I bet him a quarter I wouldn't hear from you. To go back in time, I won't take too much of your time, but this is a serious matter. There is no more pressing issue in Rye than flooding. Sometime about a month after the flood in 11 from Hurricane Irene, I twice met with you and the city manager. We had good meetings, I thought, and I encouraged you to form a permanent flood advisory committee instead of the ad hoc committee composed mostly of people whose houses had been flooded, who understandably were more than upset. You, in January, when the new council sat, did in fact form that committee, and within a couple of weeks thereafter, you named, I believe it was 7 people to the committee, including me. I am the only engineer on that committee who has practiced engineering. I practiced engineering. I headed a large engineering firm. When that happened, I was a little bit concerned because I felt if any committee in this city should not be politicized, that was the committee. Flooding in Rye is not a political issue. It never has been, never should be. But I was concerned that the leadership of that committee might be political. I was born at night, but not last night. The person named to be chairman, who has always been a gentleman, he's always very civil to me, was clearly someone in the political end of the spectrum. He had lost the council seat by 5 or 6 votes. I admire the man. He's very good to me, but he's in the wrong job at the wrong time. However, that's not my call. I asked Scott to communicate that to you. Not having heard from you, I submitted this letter on the 9th of April, which is a week ago Monday. Scott said that he would distribute it before the meeting that you may have had last week. The last I heard, he was going to put it, quote unquote, on the package you get on Friday. When I spoke to one of the council people on Monday, I heard that it wasn't in the package. That began to frustrate and annoy me. When I talked to Scott about it, he advised me that he'd been advised to leave it out. I don't advise him. He then said that he would circulate it before this meeting. I remember my exact words to Scott. I said, Scott, I'm a friend of yours. I've tried to help you, but I think you're standing on the bow of a sinking ship. He then decided that he would circulate it on his own since one of the letters was addressed to him. I think I'm more disturbed about that whole episode now than I am about the Constitution, how the committee is constituted. I can't do anything about that. If the ruling was informal, that any letter to the mayor sent to City Hall should be, as soon as practical, sent to the council, was informal, then it should be formalized. The thing that upsets me more than anything else is that I have deep regrets about leaving this committee because two of the people on it are not only friends of mine, they serve with me on the library board and are residents of Indian Village. I had another consideration which my attorney reminded me of. I am a former president, chairman of the New York State Board of Professional Engineers and Land Surveyors, whose sole function is to monitor the professional activities of engineers and land surveyors in this state. There is a provision in the state education law that if a professional engineer, whether he's been retained or not, is present at a time when some decision is made, that in the commission's opinion, the Oversight Commission, he should have had something to say about his license could be revoked. I got so upset when I heard that I immediately reviewed the plans that had already been let for the sluice gate. The thing has been let. I don't want it reversed. It's helpful. However, if they'd been reviewed in the city, it's hard to believe since the city was very short-staffed. They have no city engineer. The assistant city engineer was doing the work of 20 people. When I reviewed the plans and specs, I wrote a 2-page memo to the city manager because there are things in those plans and specs that, to use my language in construction, are very contractor-friendly. It wouldn't surprise me at all, despite the bids being close, that there were substantial overruns in that contract. I spent the weekend reviewing those plans and specs. But the reason I'm here tonight is I can't do anything about what's happened in the past. I certainly can try and do something about what happens in the future. When someone communicates with the highest officer in this city, directly at City Hall, but no one else hears about it, it puzzles me and disturbs me.
Okay. Thank
That's
you, sir.
all I have.
I can clear that up. Every week I get 2 emails from my assistant. I get the mail that's come into the mayor, and I get the weekly packet for the preceding council meeting. The packet had already gone out, so when I get my weekly mail and I go through and I see your resignation, I then tell her, include this in the packet, the next week's packet, because the packet has already gone out. So I don't disseminate the mail on the spot to the rest of the council. We roll it into the next packet. So I got your letter Friday night when I got this week's packet electronically, as we get other resignations from committees, and we forward that out to the council as we get it. I did, my understanding was the liaison to the board already knew about your resignation.
I did, yes.
So, you know, and you and I talked a couple of times about issues that you had with the flood commission.
I don't mean to interrupt you, and I didn't intend to engage in a dialogue. I don't enjoy doing things like this, okay, but I am a professional. And there have been at least 3 occasions when I've told Scott something, and he said to me, I've told this to the mayor, and he will speak to you. That never happened. I understand English perfectly. I was born here. I realize there are other problems in this city, but in my opinion, there is no greater problem in this city than flooding, and we're going into the flooding season.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Drew Noreen, did you also want to make comments?
sorry.
Oh,
The
yes.
next speaker, Larry, thank you.
I'm sorry?
I just wanted to say quickly that, Larry, that, you know, this city is fortunate. We've had a
I
history.
can't hear you. You
Sorry,
speaking to me?
I'm trying to speak up. I have
I told you, you
allergies
have
or-
that Clint Eastwood voice.
Yeah,
It's the
allergies
whiskey
have
and
affected my
cigarettes.
voice this week. But, you know, we have a rich history in this community.
I'm sorry?
We have a very rich history in this community of having people with real specialized skill sets and expertise who, you know, give of themselves and volunteer. And I mean, certainly your engineering background. You are Larry Lehman of Berger Lehman, right?
That's correct.
So to lose that expertise, I think, is a shame. And I'm sorry that this was a negative experience for you.
And Larry, if I may add to, thank you for all the great work that you have done for the city. So everyone knows he was the chairman of our Traffic and Pedestrian Safety Committee many years. And thank you for all that you've done in the cities, and of course for the
I
library.
didn't come here for thanks. I
But I
came
just
here to
wanted-
straighten something out.
I know, Larry, but I think it's always important to keep it positive and just thank
Thank
people
you.
for all they've done.
And I just want to say, Larry, you and I have spoken at some length about this, and I think that your expertise on the flood committee was very necessary, and it will be missed. So I apologize that we couldn't keep you on the flood committee, but I wish you the best and thank you for
Thank you.
the expertise you lent in the past.